bottles. I'm like, how did we not know that we couldn't smell the K&D whiskey? Well, apparently Cindy liked to chew gum. So she was able to mask her addiction that way. Well, after a while, one of my members at my church needed help. And this was a little before we knew that she had a drinking problem. So I said, why don't you hire Cindy? She does a good job for us, so she comes over. And they said, Cindy, why don't you come and stay in our spare bedroom? She was kind of between places to live. After I found all the K&D bottles, I realized why. Well, I get a call about 11 o'clock at night, and Cindy, poor thing, is wasted. Wasted beyond all get out, and the woman who she moved in with called me and said, Pastor, I just don't know what to do. I said, don't worry, I'll be over there in a minute. So I got in my green Focus wagon, I fired it up, and I raced over to the house, and I picked Cindy up. Now, this was when I was a little younger and had a few more muscles. You know, as you become a pastor, your muscles seem to fall away. I don't know where they go, and they go straight to your stomach, so you have some good table muscle. But I picked Cindy up, and I put her in the car, and we drove straight over to the hospital. All the while, Cindy is crying. Cindy checked herself into rehab. Cindy got her life straight. Cindy took the time it took to go through that 12-step program. It took the love of Christ as a pastor to go over at someone's house at 11:30 and not just simply say, call the cops. It took love, it took experience, it took devotion to the still speaking God. That same God who came to us in Jesus Christ, who told us to love each other just as Christ loved us. So Cindy began to put her life back in order. It was hard at first. She had to get rid of some of the friends that weren't really her friends. For those of you who have been in the 12-step program, you know those are called enablers, right? I can say I can be an enabler, all right? If you want a Twinkie or a cupcake, I'll bring it to you, whether you need it or not. Well, so she got rid of some of those enablers. She began having visitation with her daughter, who was 8 years old, who she had been estranged from. She also began working at the local Dillon's grocery store. Now, Dillon's is a subsidiary of Kroger, if you know anything about Kroger, and she began working in the salad bar. Within 3 months, because I told you she was a hard worker, right? Cindy had elevated herself to manager of the salad department. She got her life straight. She got her life straight because it was through love and conditioning and work and devotion and dealing with mental health issues that she was able to overcome the stresses and strains of life. We all have stresses and strains, don't we? And over the last 2 or 3 years during this COVID crisis, we have all become more aware that we have a little work to do. In fact, I was talking to a local therapist in our community, and I said, you know, people just seem to be a little more on edge, don't they? And she said, oh yes, the people that study these kinds of things are saying we are all suffering from some form of PTSD. Now, PTSD is post-traumatic stress syndrome. Have any of you been stressed over the last 2 or 3 years? You've been waiting for that next shoe to drop? You know, in my church, we had 6 people die related to the COVID crisis. We can find love and we can find strength as a community. Just as those little turtles that I shared with you a little while ago, those ones that all banded together and helped flip that one turtle over, we too can do that same kind of work. We can band together, we can share the love of God, and when we share that love of God, who knows what we are capable of. Now, you have your own mission here at this church. What is that mission? What is that mission? What is it that calls you here into this structure each week? Now, for some of us, we come because we miss our friends. Sometimes we come because I've heard about this thing that you have. It's called a rummage sale. And it calls you in to come to church every week because you've got to sort through all of that rummage. There are many reasons why we come. We come because we remember those times with our Sunday schools back in 1945. We remember those times where we got married in this church. We remember those times that perhaps we even had a funeral for our dear loved ones. We keep coming because we find that there's something special to be had here in community. Something that we can share with the outside world and invite them in to be fellow disciples of Christ. To find that love that Jesus shared on that holy night. That night when he gathered his disciples around and said, "Take and eat. This is my body broken for you." Through that love, we realize that we can be more. That we can do more, that we can share that love that Christ has given each one of us today and all our days. Amen.